Studying the Bible, The Towers of Babel, Chapter 11, 1 Languages. It is difficult to imagine that there was a time in history of which universal communication was possible. It is more difficult now to believe that we might have in common ancestor with the Cherokee Indians or the Mongol Chinese. The exposure to different cultures and customs diverts our attention from this reality. We take it for granted that despite our different skin tones and dialectic, if we traverse long enough into the past, undoubtedly our progenitors is of the same clans or tribe. Even today, we're blessed with this subconsciously. We walk with greater security, unknowingly, thanks to our subconscious. Fear not thy neighbor, for they share the same blood as thine in the drift of history. The Towers of Babel. The Towers of Babel is a short biblical text which consists of 1 chapter and 9 verses. Yet despite its brief exposition, it is a mystery that it managed to arouse men's mind into a dozen paintings and depictions of a tower whose top may reach up to heaven. Our story begins with our hero man. They journeyed from this and found a plains in the lands of Shinar. They dwell for a time, being of one speech and tongue, they labor on 100 ideas, letting their imagination drive their craft. They were clever and capable, although this was not said so explicitly, it is fair to assume because they made a city out of the plains of the land. This was accomplished when men discovered the methods of making brick and slime. This will in turn further their craft into mortars and many other such tools which are essential for a productive life. This is the basis of any civilization. As we drift over this epic, we can understand and perhaps even defend men and their lofty ambition. They were crafters and makers of tools. As they let their imagination ring, it was inevitable that they should come upon the ideas of building a tower that could reach up to heaven. The epic ends with God coming down to see the cities and tower, which the children of men built. He was disappointed to have found men losing themselves in their ambition. The great sense of pride and arrogance enslaved men. Upon seeing this, he spoke thus and confined their languages so that they may not understand one another's speeches. Then he scattered them abroad from hence upon the face of the earth. Babel, which means confused noise made by numbers of voices, is an appropriate title for the short epic. Analysis and critique. Man, pride, and reality. Men are a curious and ambitious creature. No doubt there's some truth here. There was no doubt a time when man thought of rivaling God, and what better way to prove his worthiness than to have built a tower that could reach up to heaven? If this was only an idea, God would have been more forgiving. However, the ambitions can't be confined to his aspiration. He also desired to be recognized and worshipped for his goal. This is what doomed humanity. God was right in his judgments of confounding their languages and scattering them across the earth. The danger which men posed was not towards God but themselves. The lingering thoughts of perversities in the minds of men was making them forget the wisdoms and goodness of limitation. Man was not made to reach to heaven until death. If this labor had been realized, men would have only been dragged down by gravity. It is a short story, but its metaphysic is as real as number. Given the appropriate opportunities, what man would not desire to rival God and his creation? And what greater truth is there than the idea that men, rather a group of men, when working together is capable of so much as to have built the great edifice? A great example of this today is perhaps in the accomplishment made in the fields of medicine and mathematics. In less than a century, men have made aircraft and completely conquered the sky. In less than a century, the lifespan expectancy averages from 50 years old to about 75 years of age. This rapid development is due to the collective collaborations of man throughout history. The world today is better thanks to this contribution. Are we happy because we were scattered? Yes. It was not a punishment that he scattered us, but grace. This is due to the unpredictabilities of nature. Everywhere the threads of nature paralyze us, we could only fight it with numbers, tests, and error. In May 526, the Enoch earthquake killed an estimate of 300,000 people. In 165 to 180 AC, the Antonine plague killed 5 to 10 million Roman. In the years of 541, the plagues of Justinian killed approximately 40 million personnel. And finally, the Black Death of the 14th centuries, which has an accumulation of 75 to 200 million deaths. If we weren't scattered, the great tragedies of history would have ended humanity completely. While the West was killing itself, the East prospered, and while the East succumbed to poverty, the West flourishes. Out of the million there comes a strange group of individuals who give themselves up completely for humanity. It is with this grace that we no longer fear the sky or the sea.